Thank you for being here. Congratulations on this quite an emotional journey that we all take in this film. I wanted to begin by asking you about the fact that this film comes out now about 11 years after the shooting. And yet it feels more resonant and more relevant now, perhaps, than if it had come out any time before 2022. Tell me about your journey, and Betsy, your co-director, through the last decade to make this.
Well, you know, we started the film just a couple of years ago. We started in 2020, when we basically were set up in a blind date type situation where a producer who ended up not being one of the producers in the film, who had worked with Gabby going back to around the time of Sandy Hook when that producer was with the Oprah Winfrey Show, and said, you know, would you be interested in having a Zoom conversation with Gabby Giffords and Mark Kelly, you know, about possibly making a doc? And we said, sure. We didn't know what that experience was going to be like. We understood that Gabby had some communication problems. Of course, we remembered the shooting, and we knew that she had recovered to some extent and had an organization called Giffords. That was kind of about all that we knew. We were also aware that her husband was running for the U.S. Senate. We thought, what exactly is this going to be? And the Zoom starts, and Gabby, her opening gambit was to lift her foot and put it right at the camera of the Zoom to show us that she was wearing RBG socks. So like that's just like totally typical. She is incredible at finding ways to connect with people. You know, I've always heard that 90% of communication is nonverbal, and I never really believed it until I met this person and spent time with her. And she's just has so many ways of communicating, and you feel like a connection with her instantly, even when words are a challenge.
Right. You know, and it's really inspiring to see her communicate and struggle to communicate. What I mean, in terms of just interviewing her one-on-one, there are ways where she actually uses shorthand that's actually really poetic, even though it's caused by her aphasia.
Absolutely. You know, the words that she has most trouble with are connecting words and articles, a, and, the, in, it. The short words are the ones that she skips. I mean, you saw when she was doing that campaign ad, she has trouble with tenses, like she was saying served when the script called for her to say serve. But you kind of realize often how it doesn't matter. I mean, an example that comes to mind is just a few weeks ago when she learned that she was going to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the U.S. And before it was announced publicly, the day she found out, she was called by the president. She was really excited about it. And Peter Ambler, the head of Giffords, who you see in the film also, called us. He was with her, and he's like, Gabby has big news that she wants to tell you. Can we get on a Zoom? We all got on a Zoom, and she gets this facial expression that she gets when she has something to say, even though it's going to take a minute, and people that know her well understand if you just wait, she'll get there. And she just said, like, President Biden, Freedom Medal, and like, you know, with complete excitement and enthusiasm, and we got it immediately. And like, you know, the other words that could have gone in there really weren't necessary.
I've heard you say too that when this isn't in the film, but when the decision was leaked about the Dobbs case, the overturning of Roe versus Wade, you were with her on that day?
We happened to have a preview screening in San Francisco that evening, to which Gabby and a couple of her people arrived early, and I was there early also. And she came running up to me, and she was like, "Oh, you know, Roe versus Wade, 50 years, backwards." And like, you know, I actually had a number of other conversations with friends that day, and I felt like what she said was sort of the most meaningful to me.
Yeah.
Like with only, you know, 6 words.
Yeah. I want to give everybody here a chance to ask a question too, but just wanted to ask about being with her and Mark Kelly in their home. And I was really weirdly moved by the scene where he pulls her like brain out of the freezer, or her skull actually, because it's just there's an ordinariness about their life together. I mean, he's a senator, she was a congresswoman. What was it like just being alone with them and seeing them together?
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, they were so open. They gave us so much access into their lives. I've made a bunch of docs in the past 12 years or so. Betsy and I have made 4 together, and this was just by far the most access that we've been given. Just sort of like, in fact, they had like too many activities that were going. They're like, how about coming to this? And like, we have the bat mitzvah lesson. And like, do you want to see Gabby's Spanish lessons? And we kind of like, we're going to have like Hebrew and Spanish at a certain point. We had the bike riding in the gym. Do you want to go to yoga? Like, the two of them together just sort of hanging out was really lovely to watch. The extent to which there's a lot of kind of teasing and ribbing. Senator Kelly goes out of his way to not help Gabby with everything. He knows she wants to do stuff for herself, and even when it would be just easier to just hand her something than have her maybe do a more work and take a few more moves to get it, like they just have a real natural way of communicating. I mean, that's why it was important to us. We so much wanted to get her helping him preparing for that speech, because we kind of saw how she's, like any, I believe my husband is in the audience, someone here, like any wife, like sort of telling their husband what to do, like the moment where he's practicing the speech, and she just looks at him and says, "Calm down." Like, I don't know. I just found it very relatable and also cute. And he, he's taking her advice, but then he's kind of a little irritated. But then he makes it, he's like, I think I'll talk slowly because that's what Gabby Giffords wants.
Yeah, and also if he helped her too much, if he was too much of a crutch for her, then that would impede her progress. And also, we see it in the film. We see her singing. I've heard you say that there was a lot of singing in the making of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, she sings at the drop of a hat. I mean, I was actually, she was with us in New York for a few days ago, helping promote the film. And just as as we were driving around past Times Square, she just started spreading the news. Like, anything will prompt a song for her. I like to sing too. So did like a lot of the crew. So there were definitely experiences of singing together after that scene where she rides on her recumbent bike, where she sang a number of songs, some of which are included in the film, but others aren't. She just asked, she just looked up at the whole crew. We had stopped rolling and said, like, what music is your favorite? And Betsy said the Beatles, and then Gabby just like launched into 8 days a week, and then the whole crew, the drone operator, like Gabby and the whole team is just singing. We sang the whole song, and it was like so much better than your usual small talk.
So the last question from me, you mentioned before that you've made 4 films with Betsy, and they are on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Pauli Murray, Julia Child, and now Gabby Giffords.
Nice.
These incredible trailblazing American women, each in their own different ways. Might be an obvious question, but what is the connecting thread for you, and I guess for Betsy too, as filmmakers?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that draws us to these subjects is just people who have spectacular achievements and are interesting enough on a personal level that you can make a character-driven film. But spending some time thinking about these 4 fairly varied individuals, we've noticed that there are things that they have in common. all four were incredibly ambitious people, a word that often we don't like to ascribe to women, or women are uncomfortable ascribing to themselves, but I think it's like a good word to own and claim, because all four of these people were incredibly ambitious. And the most kind of notable commonality is just this relentless optimism. Like, I think Gabby really exemplifies that the most strongly of all. But whatever challenges that she faces, and this is for the other three too, both whether it's, political, cultural challenges, or the just extraordinarily painful personal challenges that Gabby's faced, she just goes into it with optimism. She always thinks things are gonna work out. She's always looking forward to, she just doesn't, not to say that she's not sad or frustrated sometimes, but she just focuses forward in this way that I think is very much connected to her success.
Yeah, well said. Who wants to ask a question? Yes.
Hi, congratulations.
Hi, Ed.
Hi.
Are you again?
I noticed that there are just a lot of resources that were put on her to help her get better. Aides and therapists and is that extraordinary, or would, like, if any of us, how specially treated was she, and how much did that help her improvement?
Everybody can hear it.
Yeah, I don't think that the incredible care that Gabby has gotten is too much related to her being a VIP, but it is related to her having good insurance. It's like money is the issue here. It's not that like everyone wanted to help out Gabby Giffords, although people do, but like she wouldn't have been able to stay in the rehab facility in Houston for as long as she had if she didn't have great insurance, which she did have a great health insurance policy as a member of Congress. And she wouldn't be able to have the ongoing, day-to-day care that she gets now. And there are nurses as well as speech pathologists, some physical therapy, but speech pathology is really the big thing. And it does cost money, and they do have it. They have the insurance to cover it. It's not like she's unique, but of course there's a whole portion of society that wouldn't be able to get the same care. That's a really important issue to both Gabby and Senator Kelly, and something that, trying to create a situation which actually would exist in some other countries where where anyone would have access to that care is a priority for them, because there's no question. You see in the film how incredible her speech pathologists are. Yeah. Both the Angie Glynn, who was her main speech pathologist in the rehabilitation facility, and now Fabi Hirsch, who's been working with her for the past 9 years. These people are so good at what they do. And the combination of expertise and just love is a big part of what has pulled her to where she is now. And combined, of course, with her own determination and hard work.
Hi, my name is Jose Galvez Contreras, and you're Julie, right?
I am.
Good to meet you, and it's a pleasure. I saw your, the preview of your documentary or your film at another film and at another screening, and I just was crying when I saw it. And here I am again. I'm a puddle of tears watching it, but I was crying not so much on the sad moments, but on the really specific moments where you narrated or put a story of hope. And my question for you is what kinds of emotions as the filmmaker did putting together this story of someone who is such an amazing human being, a woman who is out there in politics trying to serving her country, but at the same time a love story and a story of a political of a political opinion in some ways, right? So what for you, in the editing room, in the cutting room, being with your team, what kind of emotions did this awaken on your end as a filmmaker and as a person who's doing this type of work?
Yeah, by the time you're in the edit room, you're really not. The edit room part is really not the emotional part. That's the part where where intellectually we're all trying to figure out, myself and Betsy, our editor on this film, Ilya Chaikin, like how to make this film emotional for the viewer. The main emotions I think we feel as filmmakers are actually when you're out filming the movie. I mean, one moment that I remember as being particularly emotional was the scene where Gabby's in her garage, getting ready to go on her recumbent bike. And as you saw some in the film, I don't think we could fully capture how much effort it takes for her to get in that bike. Like, she and her nurse are actually doing a fair amount of work getting everything all set up, and it's kind of an arduous process. It's a process she does every single day because she loves to go bike riding. And this is Tucson, Arizona, where it's like 109 degrees right now, and she still goes riding at 8 in the morning. And when she was going through this process that could be just such a pain in the butt and that looked difficult, and then there's that moment where she's like 80's on 8 and U2 starts to play, and she just started singing with such complete lack of inhibition and just like the sheer joy that just is her personality, like this bubbly rolling joy. And we're sort of scrouched in the corner of the garage because we're trying to make sure we don't get in the shot, and both Betsy and I cried just watching her sing this. It was just so beautiful. Like the music is pretty anyway, like it's a lovely song, and just seeing the joy of her singing that was definitely a moment that made me cry personally. But then by the time we're getting in the edit room, you're like, oh, let's have a few more seconds of this part, and then should we go to that shot? You're really not in an emotional mode. You're like, how can we, elevate this scene as much as possible?
I think that's a good point to end on, and I don't know if you can reveal, or if you are working on anything else, or if you can even say, because I know that I asked your co-director last fall and she wouldn't tell me that she was working on this.
Yes, we're very, very secretive, and we're not yet. But that was a different situation because we weren't at liberty to disclose. Our situation now is we're a little bit. It's the irony. I can't help but say that one of the early questioners, our attorney over there, would be the first to say that we're sorting out the contractual issues of our next potential project.
Well, but I mean, on behalf of all of us here and everybody else, just keep on keeping on. I mean, it's we're so happy to have you as artists right now, portraying the lives of these women. I'm sure there'll be more to come. Where can we find this in addition to in the theaters after it's?
Yeah, so the first step is for everyone to please tell friends and family to see the film, where it's going to be, especially over this weekend and for the next week in theaters. Gabby Giffords won'tbackdown.com tells people where they can see it in a theater near them. Send people here for the same show tomorrow night, where you could once again see Joe and I talking about it after the film. It will it will in August be on paid VOD, where you go on Amazon and you're like, why can't I just watch the movie? You're like, why do I have to pay $19 to see a film when I own Amazon Prime? Well, that's part of how it all works. And so it'll go to paid streaming. Ultimately in the fall it will be on CNN, and so.
And RBG and My Name Is Paulie Murray and Julia are all available on streaming.
All in various ways.
Somewhere or another.
Somewhere out there in your smart TV, you will be able to find them. Or if you have one of the cool ones where you just say, show the movie Julia, then like my dad does, then you could just do it that way.
Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
Congratulations.